Welcome to Your Sleep Coach, the podcast dedicated to helping you reclaim your nights so you can live your best days. I'm your host, Devin Burke, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and the founder of Sleep Science Academy. I help exhausted insomniacs fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up energized using proven science-backed strategies and holistic coaching methods. So whether you're tired of tossing and turning or looking to optimize your rest for better health, you are in the right place. So each episode, we're going to dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life success stories to help you sleep deeply to live fully. No pills, no gimmicks, just the tools you need to create the sleep you deserve. So get ready to say goodbye to sleepless nights and hello to more peaceful, powerful, and present you. Let's dive in. Today, we're diving into a topic that's at a core of both sleep and overall well-being, meditation and mindfulness. If you've ever struggled with racing thoughts at night, if stress keeps you up, or if you simply want to learn how to cultivate deeper relaxation before bed, this episode is for you. Joining me is David Gandelman, renowned meditation teacher, author, and founder of the Meditation School. David has helped thousands of people tap into the power of meditation and mindfulness to reduce stress, find greater inner peace, and improve their sleep. In this episode, we're going to be exploring why stress is one of the biggest disruptors of sleep, how meditation and mindfulness can help regulate the nervous system, practical techniques to quiet the mind and prepare for deep, restful sleep, and how to create a simple, effective meditation practice, even if you've never meditated before, or how to stay consistent or fully commit to a meditation practice to transform your stress, your mindset, your life, and your deeper connection. So if you're ready to turn off the mental chatter and experience true rest, stay tuned. This conversation might just change the way you sleep forever. David, welcome to the Your Sleep Coach podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today.
It's great to be here, Devin.
So let's just dive right into it. So what inspired you to pursue meditation and mindfulness? Tell us a little bit about where that came from. You've dedicated your life to teaching people meditation and spirituality. Give us a little background as to what inspired you to pursue this path.
Sure. Oddly, by the time I was 13, I was trading stocks, watching the news for hours a day, and just somewhere in my mind, I was being an adult, and I had no idea why. And eventually, that led to, I just was exploring so much more, I guess, than some of my friends in the teenage years. Even though I was playing hockey, hanging out with friends, doing all the normal kid things. But I always had some kind of I want to know what the bigger picture of life is and of the world and what the world is about. And then at 16, my brother took me to a bookstore and I picked up The Power of Now, which is one of the most popular meditation books of all time, Eckhart Tolle. And that's when I started meditating deeply. I had a profound experience, just probably 3 to 5 pages in. I don't remember. And the experience was really simple and yet profound, which is the core of meditation for me, which was most of our lives, we experience the world through memory and anticipation. So we're either reflecting into the past or projecting into the future. And this moment is a means to some other end. It wasn't in those exact words. Eckhart has his own words. But when I realized that I was never in the moment, except maybe when I was playing hockey, at moments where there's an intensity that you have to be present to keep yourself from dying or because of adrenaline. That's why people jump out of airplanes. That's why they like having sex. That's why they enjoy a beautiful kiss or amazing food. As something pulls you into the moment. But that tends to be fleeting. And so when I read this, I realized, oh, I'm never really in the moment. And that realization led to me learning how to meditate. And I started just devouring books on meditation and sitting for hours a day. And that was all starting at 16 when I started meditating. Eventually, I moved to India and went and explored it, out in the East, as they would say.
Oh my gosh. Well, what an interesting. You, as a 16-year-old, you're reading The Power of Now. Coming as a 13-year-old, you're watching the news and interested in stocks, and then you find yourself reading The Power Now by Eckhart Tolle, and all of a sudden there was a shift that kind of just propelled you into presence, and then that kind of just set you off on a journey. It sounds like to to study deeper. And then I want to ask you a little bit about the Himalayas because that sounds very interesting. So, were you over there studying with the guru? Were you just kind of like backpacking around? What took you to the Himalayas, and how much time did you spend over there?
Yes, so before I got there, before I even went to college, I used to go use dial-up internet like AOL days, and I would I'd go online and I would just look up ashrams in India and I would just salivate. And I grew up in Jersey in the suburbs. I had nobody had ever even mentioned meditation to me or India or ashrams, and so just something in me that really wanted that experience. After I finished college, I went and lived in Europe for a year and then made my way to India. And so I went there specifically to study. I did do some backpacking, but I found an ashram that I lived in for a while. I did find a guru that I studied with. I sat with many gurus, but there was one in particular that I sat with for a long time and learned a lot from. And we studied what's called Vedanta, which is kind of a very spiritual side of Hinduism and coming from India, and it has a lot to do with non-duality of the nature of reality, the oneness of reality, very deep form of contemplation, very much like consider it like the Indian version of Zen.
Mm,
And so yes, I studied with a guru in India in the ashram, all of that stuff. I was not a monk. I've never been a monk. I don't make that claim. I've always appreciated my freedom and
yeah.
ability to move around, but that's how I got going on this path.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Funny enough. So the book I'm reading currently is Practicing the Power of Now. And then I just picked up, I have never read the Bhagavad Gita, but that's a Vedanta book, isn't it? I believe it's,
The Bhagavad Gita, I believe, is part of the Upanishads, and it is a small piece, but one that is one of the most read and practiced parts of Hinduism, and it has to do with Arjuna and Krishna. So Krishna is a form of God incarnate, and he is guiding Arjuna, who's a prince, and he has brothers, and there's a battle, and a lot of it is symbolism for the internal battle. And
mm,
if that's all too much for you, a really easy and really profound way to understand it is there's a great movie, surprisingly, with Matt Damon and Will Smith, where Will Smith Matt Damon plays a pro golfer that's washed up, and then Will Smith comes out of nowhere as a guide. So he's Krishna, and then in the movie, his Matt Damon's actual name is Juna, after Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita, and he thinks Will Smith is guiding him through becoming a better golfer and mastering golf, but really Will Smith, who's Krishna, is guiding him through the inner journey, and it's a
mm.
beautiful modern expression of some of the core principles of the Bhagavad Gita. So, and it was written by Stephen Pressfield. If you've ever read The War of Art, if you haven't, phenomenal book. I've read it a dozen times. You can read it in a day, and so I love the Bhagavad Gita. Easier to watch that film and get a little nugget out of it.
What's the name? Do you recall the name of the film? Because yeah, the
Yes,
reason I haven't read the book was because it's this thick, and it's been sitting on my shelf for years, and I finally just I'm like, let me just pick it up and just kind of check it out. But what's the name of the movie?
it's called The Legend of Bagger Vance.
Oh, okay, yeah, I heard of that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, so for those listening, sure you could pick up the book, but that might be a little bit of a more enjoyable, simpler approach.
yeah.
Popping on Netflix. Um, amazing, amazing. So let's kind of I want to talk about how your journey has impacted you personally. So from 13, well, really, I guess from 16 all the way up to now, you've been on a path. You're a teacher, you're an author, you have a school that you teach people meditation and mindfulness. Can you share a little bit from your experience how the practice of meditation or mindfulness or what it is? I guess let me ask you, do you say that you teach meditation or is there a different sort of form that is there a different language that you use?
No, I say I teach meditation. Yeah,
Okay. So how
yeah.
can you share personally how meditation has transformed your life? Obviously you're now teaching other
Mhm.
people to do this, and you're one of the most popular teachers on Insight Timer, and you have a meditation school, and you have books, and all this. Can you talk to us from your perspective? I think people get really inspired when they hear teachers share what it's done for them as a teacher. I'd love to kind of pick your brain on that a little bit.
Sure. So, well, first of all, we all have what's called an ego, and a teacher of mine would always say, "Where ego, I go." So, fundamentally, when you meditate, there's a shift that happens from being completely identified with who you think you are, what we can call the ego, the story of yourself. I'm this person born on this date with this name. This is what the world thinks of me. These are my accomplishments and these are my failures. It's a story that we believe in our heads that we call the self, ourselves. And when we learn to really meditate, we learn to step back from that idea of who we think we are and sit in pure awareness. So you can think of the ego as the movie on the screen and the real true self as the light passing through the projector. Now, most people are sitting in the movie theater watching the film going, ah, oh, yay, no, want, don't want, like, dislike, right? And just on this roller coaster of this is me, this is who I am, this is where my life is going. And they obsess about their future, they obsess about their past, and they're just watching the movie. And so in meditation, we wake up out of that. Eckhart Tolle puts it beautifully, which is there's a separation between thought and consciousness. So enough thoughts that come together that build a story, we can call that the ego. And then when we meditate, we step back from that into more of a presence, and we realize, okay, there are thoughts that pass through my mind. There are feelings that arise and dissipate, and I am the experiencer of that. And so when I started meditating, that's what happened to me. Some shifts are really big and they last, others they come and then they go, they dissipate. But my entire meditation journey has always been cultivating that awareness. And every time I go unconscious and forget and lose myself to the world, to the ego, to all of those movies, I come back again and again. So it's not as though you have one realization and you're done. Very, very, very few people have that experience. For the mere mortals, most of us, we come back again and again, thousands of times, and we cultivate our awareness and we deepen into that. And that's been my journey. And then the byproducts of that are less anxiety, more inner peace, more clarity when making decisions, more natural joy without a reason for being happy, better relationships, more of an inner intuitive guidance system on what direction to go in life. And just overall better energy, putting better energy out into the world. There's a lot of inner healing that happens from that cultivation of awareness too. Does that make me perfect? You can ask anyone that knows me, absolutely not. If anybody ever makes that claim, to me, that's the ego taking some kind of awakening and turning it into its own usefulness. And look how amazing I am, look how perfect I am. And so I make no claims of that whatsoever. I'm just doing the work like every other human being, and I've noticed amazing benefits for myself and the people around me. And every day, still working on cultivating that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I want to add one more thing in there: sleep. Maybe there have you noticed a difference with there are now a lot of amazing research actually, programs actually based in mindfulness. We use mindfulness as a tool at Sleep Science Academy. Um, that's for sure improved sleep. The science shows it. I'm curious on your experience, have you noticed an improvement in your sleep as you know, continued to practice mindfulness and meditation and deepened your path?
Sure. And let me caveat this by saying I have a sleep podcast. So I put people to sleep, but I'm not a sleep expert the way you are. I just do some guided meditation and talk and let people fall asleep. So I'm not a sleep expert. For sure, I've noticed a difference from when I meditate and then fall asleep and when I don't. And that could be a nightly thing. If I have a hard time falling asleep, I'll actually sit up on my pillow in bed and I'll sit and meditate for 30 minutes or an hour and get calmer and calmer. And I'll fall asleep sitting up. And as if my chin keeps hitting my chest, I'll slide under the covers. And then for me, that's been a great way to fall asleep in a much calmer state. You tell me, but in my experience, when I go to sleep, my mind starts wanting to go through the whole day and reflect on everything that's happened and all the unfinished kno it wants to tie all the unfinished knots, and so it starts trying to problem solve and then maybe anticipate for the next day all the things that haven't been done. I think that's what keeps most of us awake. So, I have done meditations of just kind of going backwards through the day from, like, that moment and then very gently remembering every detail of the moment without, not making it stressful, but just until the moment I woke up, and almost manually processing some of that in a calm, conscious way. Again, my brain will do it, when I'm asleep, it'll go over it again, but I've noticed that irons out some of the kinks for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
We in a different way, we kinda tell people that to write out their day or kinda close the book on their day and just sort of close any loops, open-ended loops, whether it's things that you feel like you didn't get to or things that you didn't have time to process. That way it's just, cleared out, so then you could fully kinda let go and allow sleep to happen,
Mm.
which is yeah, so I wanna talk a little bit, there's over the years, obviously, meditation, mindfulness has become po in popular culture. There's incredible apps out there. People are interested in it for good reason. And I also find, specifically with the people that we work with, it's often something that they've heard of and they've wanted to explore more. And maybe they've even attempted to, start a practice and then they just fall off. It's just the intention's there, the interest is there, the marketing around meditation has hooked them. I wanna be more present and less stressful, and can you speak a little bit in your experience how one can really commit to a practice and not get overwhelmed by all the different styles of meditation, all the different apps that are available, all the different now teachers that are teaching meditation. I feel like that's a big hurdle for a lot of people that are interested in meditation. It's just this like overwhelm of, hey, what style? What do I use an app? Do I not use an app? Am I doing, you know, breath awareness meditation? Am I, what it so can you share a little bit, David, with us of what you'd recommend for someone that truly wants sees the benefit of meditation, but it's in that kind of state.
Yeah, sure. Let me just start by sharing. I was on the beach once with my cousin, and he's like, "I'm gonna meditate," and he closed his eyes, and like 10 seconds later, he opened his eyes and goes, "I couldn't take 2 breaths without losing myself to thoughts. I forgot I was meditating. This is so hard."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, you're not alone if you're struggling. And so if something doesn't feel good out of the gate, which often meditation doesn't, because all it does is make us more aware of the junk in our minds, or as Jack Kornfield would say, like, the bad neighborhood in our head. Um, when that happens, we get turned off and we don't want to face it. And so we avoid, we distract, we override. And we all know all the ways that we do that. And so for a lot of people, it doesn't feel good, so they stop. Just like exercising, imagine you're pretty out of shape in your gym day 1, you're gonna feel bad about yourself, this is hard, you're out of breath quickly. It's not that different, and so the motivation does have to be strong, and you maybe need some good guidance, like, committing to a 7-day, 21-day, 30-day, course or practice or style that's gonna walk you through step by step, like Sam Harris has like a 50-day practice that he starts with. That can be really helpful. Being in a physical group of people, if we still do that, is really helpful. In India, they will call, and in Buddhism, they would call that a sangha, a community of meditators, whether it's online or in person. That's helpful. And when it comes to style, I don't think it matters. I think what matters is if it works for you. So whether that's doing mantras or breath work, mindfulness, MBSR, or something more energetic and healing in nature, or just a presence practice, an Eckhart Tolle style presence practice. That I don't. Everyone's different and has a different energy, so it's hard to give one prescription to everybody. What worked for me might not work for you. But what I can say is when you sit and close your eyes, a good meditator learns to almost enjoy pain, discomfort, frustration, resistance, because that's all feedback that there's something here to work on. So if that's coming up, it's a great opportunity to sit through it and learn from it. And that's where the rubber really hits the road is when you're willing to lean into that discomfort and be still with that discomfort. Most people just are not. We're used to chasing pleasure and avoiding pain. And that oddly is the cause of most of our suffering.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. It's like we're either wanting something different than we have or not wanting what we have. Or I guess it's the same way of saying wanting something different, right? It's like we're
Yeah.
constantly like, I want to be somewhere else, or I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. And that somewhere else is better than here. And so I think most people most of the time are in some form of just avoidance or escapism or in a state of stress or overwhelm because they're either in the past or the future. So for you, just to kind of recap, you think it doesn't necessarily make a difference what style someone chooses. It's really a matter of it is helpful to have a community. It is helpful to maybe explore different teachers and see, hey, do I like this person's style or voice or presence? And just to go for it and just commit to breaking through the discomfort of it. That's the key for someone that really is looking to make this a part of their life. Is that what you're saying?
E Exactly, and that is an art form. There's mechanics to it, and it's also an art form. It's a science and an art of learning to sit with, let's just call it resistance with a capital R, in all of its manifestations. I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, I don't like the temperature in this room, I don't like who I am, I don't like who you are, I don't like the way the world is, I don't like being a human. There's a discontentment that we all experience on different levels, and it takes so many forms. We could either project it outward at the world and at the people around us in the way the world is, or we project it inwards. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I could be better. I'm stuck. Either way, it's the same kind of thing. We'll call it resistance with a capital R. And so, if you could really master sitting and being still with resistance and learning to accept resistance, that might mean I'm sitting meditating, going, David told me to accept resistance, but I just can't accept resistance. I can't accept how I feel.
Mm.
Then I would say, can you accept that you can't accept how you feel?
Yeah, I
All
like that.
right.
Go meta. Go meta.
Yes. Can I accept the resistance that I'm in towards this whole freaking project? And there's a saying, as you run up a hill, you can quit as many times as you want, just keep your legs moving. In meditation, it's kind of opposite. You can get up as many times and quit as many times as you want, just stay still.
I like that. So you
Yeah.
touched on something really, a word that comes up a lot in what, and again, in sort of our curriculum, and I really wanted to explore this with you today. And it is the practice of acceptance. And we our language at Sleep Science Academy, we call it embodied acceptance. I would love to explore this concept or this way of being or this practice, whatever language you want to put around it, of acceptance, because I feel like it is so confusing for people. Number one, I feel like it's a simple thing. Like intellectually, most people understand, right? They understand, okay, it would be probably better to accept this. And everyone wants, but how? How do I accept something that's uncomfortable? How do I accept something that I don't want? What's the step-by-step process? And I'd love to get your insights and your wisdom on maybe how you teach or how you coach someone through that understands that they have a desire to be acceptance, but they just don't quite can't quite get there yet. I'd love to jam on that a little bit with you, David.
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental flaw in how most people see how they're gonna get there and the tool that they're gonna use. So most people try to get there with their mind. You know, my the faculty of my intellectual mind is what I use to make money, to plan the future, to do well at work. It works in a lot of we've built our entire civilization on it, and then we go and try to use it on acceptance, and it doesn't feel very good, and it doesn't work very well. I've had students who've gone to therapy for 30 years, and they circle around something in a very intellectual way, and nothing shifts because they couldn't get out of their head. So, instead, whatever the content of your consciousness is, let's say it's some form of resistance, like we've been talking about, and let's say it's has to do with sleep. I can't effing fall asleep. I can't stop thinking and ruminating on this damn thing. Nothing's working. We've got resistance. Red light goes up. Beep, beep. We got resistance. Okay. Now, let's take a step back. As a meditator, what we do is we realize that that experience is in our field of awareness. So usually, there's no field of awareness in that moment, which means I'm watching the movie on the screen and I'm totally lost in it. I'm lost in the journey, in the rumination. I believe every image that passes through my mind. It velcros to my consciousness. So instead, as a meditator, we step back and realize the content of our consciousness exists inside the field of our awareness. Imagine like an object floating in the water, and you're just seeing it float in the water, or a cloud passing through the sky, as they would often teach in Zen. So you step back, and instead of just being lost to thought, you realize, oh, there's rumination. Look, it's passing. I'm just going to watch it pass. And, and there's feelings. I'm just going to watch them arise and dissipate in my field of awareness. So that's the fundamental step. We step back into what we can call witnessing consciousness or witnessing presence. That's step one. When you do that, you'll immediately feel like you've pulled the Velcro off your head. Okay. Then we can go a bit deeper, which is okay, now that I have some space and stillness, maybe I do want to look at what I'm ruminating on. Maybe it does need attention. Maybe it does need some healing. We don't always just, have a neutrality and let everything pass. Sometimes we have to actually face something. So if it's one of those moments, then we learn how to look at the energy behind the thoughts that we're having. So, for example, if you're laying in bed and you're ruminating and you can't sleep, if you were to freeze frame one of those ruminating thoughts, just hold that frame there. What is it made of? Like, what is that thought made of? I have to wake up to work tomorrow really early. So maybe that thought is made of anxiety. And then you can actually look at that in your mind's eye. Maybe the anxiety has a color, a shape, a texture, right? Maybe it's sharp and jagged, or maybe it's fluffy and gray. So you start to interact with the energy that animate the thoughts. That might be a bit new to some people. We focus entirely on the thoughts or entirely on the feelings, but instead, we can look at the energy behind those feelings and thoughts. Like, what is that energy?
Can I'm
All
gonna
right, so
stop you
there's
for a
go
second.
ahead.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I just wanna make sure. So
Mm.
kind of the first step I heard you say was, kind of like stepping back and becoming aware that you're having thoughts or you're having resistance. Is that correct?
The thoughts are existing in the field of awareness, in the
Okay.
field of your awareness. Yes.
And
That's the
then
first
from
step.
there, now we have a choice. The choice is, do I wanna let the sort of things just sort of pass neutrally, or do I want to become aware of the energy behind it? Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And so in Buddhism, we would call being staying neutral, like putting the car in neutral, we would call that equanimity, or we could just call it neutrality, where I'm neither for nor against anything that passes through my consciousness. I just sit still.
Mm.
That is a very traditional form of meditation, and it works really, really well. On the other hand, sometimes we got to face the damn thing. and there might be something to work on, and that might help you heal and resolve. I think both practices are vitally important. I know a lot of people who only sit still and never deal with their stuff, and it passes over and over, but not much shifts. And so I do think sometimes we have to go, okay, I have this heightened awareness. Now let me peel back some of these layers.
So
So I got to get up tomorrow morning. There's anxiety. That's where we got to. Yeah.
so okay, so we're how does one know whether it would be in their best interest to stay in neutral versus engage with the energy? And I have some questions about the energy too. So but let me just stop there and just
Yeah.
like, so is there a sign or is there some type of insight or some type of um d you know,
Mhm.
pointing that could help someone know, "Hey, I think now is a good time just to watch these things, or now is a good time to explore them."
Yeah. Well, let's, in the context of falling asleep, if you sit there in neutrality or lay there in neutrality for a long time and it's not, you're not falling asleep and it's just coming back over and over. So usually that rumination will come back again and again and again and again, to the point like where a little red light goes off, like, okay, this thing is just not going away. This one thing really wants my attention. So it has a certain quality of urgency or like repetitiveness, whereas a lot of other thoughts and feelings might come and just go. So if it's one of those, I just make a choice. At this moment, do I feel like I need to engage this, or do I just stay in stillness? I think it's just a choice at that moment. And so that's how I do it. And I get a sense, no, this needs my attention right now.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the energy, so let's say this thought is kind of coming back, it's looping back. We keep kind of hearing or seeing or feeling this same sort of thought. And then it's like, okay, now we're choosing to engage. Now, is the energy getting into the energy of that, is that different than feeling the sensations of the body? Is it more of a visual type of thing, or is it both? Is it feeling what's here in the body and also kind of seeing colors or putting colors to it? Or can you speak a little bit more to like how would someone know if they're engaging with the energy behind the thought?
Sure. So it could be feeling, seeing, hearing, knowing. So you can engage with it in any form that you experience it. You're engaging with the energy of it. Um, and energy is a very nebulous, ambiguous, broad word, and that's actually why I like it, because it
Mm,
kind of keeps you out of your head. You're in your head looking at this, but in a certain way, it keeps you from being able to grasp it. In the way that in meditation we all often say, um, you sit with your beingness. That's a hard word to like grab. It's like trying to grab a cloud with your hand. Like,
mm,
what is being? No, beingness is not a thing and it's not a doing. It's self-defining, like
mm.
awareness. Like you can't grab awareness. So I like the word energy because it's what animates everything and it's broad. So I wouldn't try to over define it. Okay, there's a thought here, there's an energy behind the thought, right? What is that energy animating it? Yes, there's a feeling there. It's anxiety, but there's also a color. Maybe it's dark gray. There's also a texture. Maybe it's jagged.
Mm.
And that's how we start to explore instead of just focusing on the thought, which is what
Okay.
most people do.
Beautiful. Okay, so now if there was like a step by step, we're kind of like we're
Mhm.
now, I guess, in step 2. We're exploring the energy, we're engaging with the energy. Now, where would you take us to lead us deeper into that full embodied acceptance?
Usually there's more than one energy. And so anxiety tends to be, I always say this, a surface layer energy. It's like icing on the cake. It's the radiation off of something deeper, right? It's never a core, it's just not a core energy. So uh, we usually have to go deeper. So, w- for example, I got to wake up tomorrow. I can't fall asleep. I'm anxious. Why am I anxious about not waking up in time? Well, if I'm going to be late to work. Okay. Why is that a big deal? I don't want my boss to think poorly of me. And in fact, am I going to get fired? No, I realize I'm worried about external judgment about who I am. Or it comes from a deeper place of, I'm not good enough. I'm never able to wake up. I can't function like a normal person. And you find like a really deep layer of lack of self-worth. Usually, there's something like that that needs attention, and when we can unravel that and heal it, that's when anxiety will really go away. We can do all the surface level stuff to mitigate it in the moment. I can mantra it away, I could do some light meditation, but if it comes back every night over and over, then it's trying to tell you and teach you something, and so eventually we have to get to the core of what that is, and when we get to the core of something, we do have to feel it. So, one of the processes I walk my students through is like a four-step process of like find it, find it, feel it, face it, heal it.
I like
So
that.
we sit, yeah, find it, feel it, face it, and heal it. So we sit still, something arises, we allow ourselves to feel it. There's the anxiety. Then we have to face it, peel back the layers. Where did that come from? Well, there's actually a deep lack of self-worth. We let ourselves have that, experience it. Maybe it processes through our whole being. And then we heal. That's how
Mm.
we shift and come back into wholeness. And when we fall asleep in wholeness, that's a much better way to sleep than if we fall asleep in some kind of inner division, right? Like, not good enough yet.
It's so interesting, and I really so appreciate what you just shared, and I appreciate the framework for people because I think people will really resonate with that framework. And I just appreciate also the level of depth where, that those sort of I'm gonna use the word like core wounds of,
Mhm.
not being good enough or whatever, being afraid of letting someone down or trying to be perfect or whatever it is, like wherever those are often very deep, I find. Those are deep, 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 deep emotions with a lot of history, a lot of story, and sometimes most of the time I think they're out of our awareness. Like most I would think, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Do most people they're not they don't have the awareness yet to fully go to that place to make the connection of, "Oh, I'm feeling anxious because I don't feel like I'm good enough." Is that in your
Most people are
experience as
not,
well?
yeah, most people are not even close to recognizing that, because to get close to recognizing that is to get close to a really deep pain. And that is scary. It could be scary if you don't have support or if you don't know what to do with it. And if it's going to dysregulate you and spin you out and then you can't go to work. So there's some very practical, real reasons that you might be afraid of coming close to that. So I don't want to make it sound just, go in there and tear out your wound, bring it to the surface right now. um, I found personally, with my students, that usually what we can handle, like what capacity we have to handle something, that's what arises. Our unconscious is pretty good at feeding us kind of the next piece. Once in a while, maybe we get overwhelmed, but even then, it might be, I need to learn how to deal with the feeling of being overwhelmed.
Mm.
Most of the time, our system kind of brings up what the next layer that we can handle. That's been my experience.
I think also in my experience working with people, it's interesting. It's so important what you just shared doing this work to have a teacher or a coach to guide you through it, or a therapist or a counselor or someone that has a background and experience, has been there themselves, is doing the work themselves to sort of help navigate through. Just like, if you went and sat in an ayahuasca ceremony or something like that, you're not just gonna do that, hopefully, by yourself. Hopefully you're going to if you do decide to do something like that, you're going to somebody that really understands it and is gonna be able to help you process whatever your experience is. I think it's very important that people know that. And I think why do
Yeah.
you think I'm curious from your perspective too, why do you think so many people have such a resistance to getting support in that way? Is it because there's a fear that, where do you think that comes from? Because I feel like there's so many people that we all need support, right? We all need coaching. We all need a teacher. And then yet there's often I find there's it takes people to get to such a deep, painful place to finally just submit to getting the help. Can you share in your experience, like, why that is or where that comes from? Or because it's kind of baffling to me. It's like, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to go to this have this painful experience to really then be vulnerable enough to ask for support?
Yeah. Are you talking about men or everyone? I
Yeah, I
think,
think you're yes, I think, yes, it's mostly yeah, it's definitely a male thing.
I'm
Um,
I'm half joking, but for sure, men in general, in my experience as a teacher, have a harder time getting support, and that's a whole nother conversation. But most people, their awakening comes through being dragged through suffering. Very rarely is somebody, conscious and calm and decides, "I'm gonna take this journey." It usually happens with us kicking and we get pulled while we're kicking and screaming, and that might just be the nature of evolution. We grow through suffering, and, that's the kind of core of Buddhism and the Four Noble Truths, and all about that we all suffer and that we can awaken out of that suffering. And so that is the core of the human journey. I really think it's the core of the human journey. We're unconscious until we're conscious. And so there has to be an impetus to wake us up. Just like you're sleeping in your bed, something's got to someone or something or an alarm clock or the light through the window, something's got to wake you up or your internal system, the internal clock. So there's got to be an impetus to wake us up. Often that impetus is pain and resistance and suffering. I wish it wasn't, but then maybe we wouldn't grow if it wasn't. Uh, I don't know the ultimate answer. That's just the nature of maybe human psychology.
yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's interesting. It is an interesting thing. I think we're definitely more motivated by pain than we are pleasure. It
Yeah.
seems to be that the
A-
case.
And to get support means to admit something's up. And for the human ego and our senses of self, that's hard to say, hey, I'm weak in this area of my life. I need help. That is a difficult thing to express into the world. And so we have to get over that and get the help that we need. Otherwise, it compounds over time. So I get that. I felt it. I think we've all felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanna kind of to kind of circle back on something here that we've been talking about, because I really want people to leave this conversation hopefully feeling inspired to take action on a practice. And you mentioned that one of the biggest obstacles for people to stay consistent with the practice is, the maybe the unwillingness to be uncomfortable, to really face some of the stuff that we want to distract ourselves from or whatever it is. So I do want to kind of just circle back to that and just unpack it a little bit more. Is there anything that you can share with us that would inspire people listening to this to have the courage to commit to that? If that's the thing that keeps people from this beautiful practice that can be so transformative, that can help with your sleep, that can help you be present and mind, just, more loving and joyous. If that's the thing that keeps people from really, what can we do to have the courage to really just break through that?
For me, it comes down to something deeper, which is what is the nature of reality? And do you want to know the nature of reality? So there's a difference between truth and facts. Facts are pieces of information about something. The truth, like with a capital T, is something that's existential that we experience in the moment as an insight. And
Mm,
so an insight, an epiphany, an awakening, a satori, an expansion of awareness, that's when the truth comes through. So if you're truly interested in the nature of reality, in the nature of who you are, in the nature of the truth, that is an invitation to meditate, I think. Like that's better than any other. Um, and human suffering, all of the suffering comes from avoiding that, whatever way, shape, or form. I don't want to be in the moment. I'm going to live in the past. I'm going to live in the future. I'm going to live a false identity. I'm going to become egotistical or I'm going to become small. I'm going to avoid being in this moment, being who I am, being in the truth. All of that creates suffering. And so you either go for the truth or to come out of suffering. It's the same thing, just kind of two sides of the same coin. So when the Buddha taught, he taught both, but he started with the Four Noble Truths and he realized most people start from a place of suffering. So I'm going to help them realize that, and help them come out of that. But you can also start from the positive side, which is there's a fundamental truth of reality and you can touch it and experience it. So it depends on the nature of the person and what's going to motivate them more. I actually was motivated by the truth and not by pain. Doesn't mean I didn't have pain that I then went back and started to work on and heal. But I wasn't brought to meditation because had some debilitating anxiety or something like that. It was just out of pure like, whoa, this is closer to reality than I've experienced before. A lot of people will get that through psychedelics. They'll take ayahuasca the first time or something else and go, whoa, what the hell was that? Like a lot of popular podcasts, as you know, Devin, these days, be like, I took DMT, and then they talk for 2 hours about their DMT trip and they touched some kind of closeness to reality for a moment. And now they're talking about it for a decade.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I heard you speaking, I felt like you were Morpheus and I was Neo in the Matrix. And you kinda had the kind of the pills there, like, "Hey, do you wanna know the truth, or do you wanna kinda go back to sleep?" And,
Yes.
it's so really one of the things that can help people bust through or break through the resistance to the discomfort that comes along with this practice we call meditation is the desire to know truth.
Yes. Yeah, and imagine falling asleep in more of that energy of truth and of who you are, and what that's gonna do to the quality of your sleep versus the maze of illusion that we all, run through like mice as we try to fall asleep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like your distinction too between you said like the facts and the truth. One of the things that we take our clients through and we talk a lot about at Sleep Science Academy is the difference between like facts and stories. So what we'll have people do is an exercise where we'll have them write down what they think are facts, and when they then analyze those facts, it comes to light that they're actually not facts at all, they're actually stories. And and then it's like, well, if those are stories, then what is the truth or what are the facts, about this situation or about what it's really eye-opening for people to, I think, to create the space to actually do that type of work. And yeah, and it often does, I think people are motivated to do this work from pain. I know for me, actually, in my experience, I I had panic attacks as a kid, as like
Wow.
13-year-old, like full blown, take me to the hospital, sweating, um, couldn't breathe, like thought I was dying. It was like hell, David. And that
Oh
kind
my
of was
god.
what sort of set me on a journey to study how to suffer less. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think for so many of us, that is sort of the impetus to really start to know a little bit more of truth, or to look for answers, or to look for teachers that can help us um, experience more of the capital T truth, whether that's through a religion or whether that's through a teacher or just simply a book or a program or a course. Um, so I want to be respectful of our time here. I mean, we could probably talk for another full hour. I feel like we're literally just skimming the surface. But I do want to sort of round out the conversation, and really sort of bring it back to sleep. Is there, I know you have an amazing podcast. You were generous enough to have me as a guest on it, called the Grounded Sleep Podcast, where you put people to sleep with your melodic voice. And so for those of you listening, definitely check that out. But I'd love to in your experience, to talk a little bit about meditation and sleep. I think it was the Dalai Lama that said sleep is the best meditation. Um, And how can meditation help us sleep better? I mean, there are a ton of research on it that shows that it can, but I'd love for you to sort of round out this conversation for people with just another little pillar for them to really commit to this practice or a practice, I should
Sure. Sure. And fundamentally, maybe we can reapproach the issues, let's say, that keep us from sleeping. Most of us, when we experience suffering, the first thing we think is like life is punishing me or there's something wrong with me, as you know. And so we want to change that filter out. That's an assumption. Those are assumptions. And the truth is they're not true. They're just not. Your life is not trying to force you into suffering for no good reason or to punish you for something you did. That's not true. That's probably a form of guilt or remorse or something like that, or self-criticism. And so just like if something happened to you during the day and you're like, man, this I'm struggling here. I'm in resistance. What an amazing opportunity to grow. But for some reason, when that happens when we're going to sleep, we don't think that. We just think this is an obstacle to my goal of sleep.
say.
But it's the same. So if there's something haunting you before sleep or ruminating over and over that you're struggling with, life again is not punishing you. This is an amazing opportunity to grow, heal, and shift your consciousness. So take it. And if you can't sleep, sit and meditate. I mean, meditation has amazing effects on the brain that can be similar to sleep. So maybe you sit up and meditate for 30 minutes and you get a lot of healing and rest benefits from that anyway. And so when it comes to meditation as a practice before sleep, obviously it's preferable to be laying down, right? So you could just fall asleep. And as Eckhart Tolle would say, you want to fall asleep consciously. You can actually fall asleep relatively consciously. Kind of it's like the way I see it is you walk into the ocean, right? Your feet get in, your ankles, your knees, all the up to your waist. You're slowly kind of sliding into unconsciousness, but in a deliberate, conscious, steady way. And so as you're meditating, for one of the really fundamental practices you can do is a light body scan. I really like doing a light body scan, just from feeling the top of your head slowly, every inch of your body down, all the way to the bottom of your feet. And then when you get to the bottom of your feet, you could feel your whole body all the way back up. For those of you who are very visual, you can do it by imagining a light hitting the top of your head, whatever color soothes you. Watch that pass through your entire body slowly down to the feet. And then maybe, I like this one, you see just darkness, just like deep black nightness, let's call it nightness, coming from the bottom of your feet all the way to the top of your head. And then again, a light coming down through the body, and then that darkness up from the feet up. And I like that practice as well. And so it kind of gives you something to focus on and pay attention to that also cultivates awareness and calmness. The more awareness we bring to our bodies, the more calm we tend to get. The the bigger the gap between where our mind is and where our body is, the more anxiety we feel. So if
Mm.
I'm the intensity of how far into the future I am, or the intensity of the past, not necessarily how many years back, but just the intensity of how much I'm going into the past or future. That gap between where the mind and the body is where anxiety flowers. So by scanning the body in one way, shape, or form or another, we bring our mind into the body, we back into the body, and that relaxes a lot of that anxiety. And that is how we become present, and a great way to fall asleep.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And you have these meditations, body scan or the different maybe
Yeah.
nighttime arising over you on your app for free. People can listen to these.
Some of them, the last one I described, I don't have yet, but I'll create one. But I have, there's over 70 episodes of the podcast is totally free. So hopefully there's some technique or modality in there that'll be helpful to you. Yeah.
Yeah, we really just want to express gratitude for you taking the time and creating the space to not only speak with us here in this context, but also to what you've created in your world with the meditation school, and also specifically for all those people struggling with sleep, the free meditations. I think it's really an amazing tool. And I'll just put a little caveat here is while you're listening to one of these meditations, just listen to it without the expectation of it's going to put you to sleep. Just listen to it fully with your full attention and presence, and just let what happens happen. And from that place, that would be the best place to listen to any beautiful meditations that David has created for us. Um, and yeah, I want to thank you for again for the creating the space. I know you're a busy guy. You got lots of things going on in your world. So I just want to thank you and express again the gratitude for you sharing some insight and some wisdom. And I know that people that are going to listen to this are going to get what they need in order to really continue to evolve and to move more towards freedom, peace, less suffering. And David, I'll put some of the resources. I know there's a lot of things that you do. I'll definitely put those resources for people to explore if they want to, explore your podcast, if they want to explore your meditation school, if they want to, check out some of your meditations on Insight Timer. I know you're one of the top teachers on that application. Is there any other resource or any other place or thing that right now you're working on that you want to, our listeners to be aware of?
No, I think that's great. Find me on Insight Timer or on Spotify, easy, Apple or wherever. And hopefully you're asleep by this point in our interview.
Yes, that would be great. And if you're not, then just go head over and listen to one of David's beautiful sleep meditations. Um, yeah, man, it's so grateful. Thank you again. And until next time, everyone, sleep well. Now, if you're ready to take the next step towards better sleep and want expert guidance, my team and I are here to help. You can book a free sleep consultation to learn more about how our proven approach can work for you. All you need to do is visit sleepscienceacademy.com to get started. And if you're passionate about sleep health and you want to help others overcome their insomnia, you can also check out our sleep coach certification program, where you'll gain all the tools and the training you need to guide clients to better sleep and transform their lives. So whether you're looking to reclaim your nights or make an impact as a sleep coach, it starts with one step. That's visit sleepscienceacademy.com to learn more. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next one.